Jamal Adams got traded, we had just done a YouTube video about Jamal Adams and whether or not the Niners would consider trading a second-round pick for him. And maybe it was because it was so fresh in our mind that it blew our minds when the Seahawks traded 2 ones for him, and a third, and a player, and they got a pick back. But
here's a
they
fourth.
went big, John.
Yeah, here's a fourth.
They went big. I think the universal Friday when it happened. Would you agree the universal response was the Jets won the trade? Saturday when it happened, the universal response was the Jets won the trade, which I understand. On trade day, they won the trade. Sure.
Well, I think the most eye-opening part was seeing multiple ones. If I would have told you the Jets got a first, a third, a player for Jamal Adams, be like, damn, good haul, impressive. Joe Douglas didn't have a choice. The dude just shit on his coach. He was over it. When it was like, I kind of had to do a double take, to be honest with you. Wait, did they 2-1? Are they swapping one? No, they got 2 first-round picks because Khalil Mack, Jalen Ramsey, Laramie Tunsil, you go, well, one of the best pass rushers of his generation, a star left tackle, and a star corner. Like, we understand the market now for elite guys, right? It's 2 ones.
Well, Kenny Stills was in that trade too, in fairness, right?
Yeah, you're right. Okay, let's just use Jalen and Khalil. That one was probably a little more complicated because they got 2 ones and a 2, and I think Bill O'Brien was, and Kenny Stills is a good player. But just Jalen Ramsey, Khalil Mack, just 2 ones. I think Jalen got 2 ones and a 2. Khalil's, I think it ended up turned into like, pick swap. The Bears were like, thanks for the tight end we got this year. But it was a shitload. I think that's the going rate for like a Hall of Fame talent. Is Jamal a Hall of Fame talent? Is Jamal plays a premium position? The more I read about it, you're like, well, I get the Seattle historically has been really aggressive, right? They've traded ones for players multiple times. Jimmy Graham, Percy Harvin, you'd say neither worked out, but they proved that they had balls. This one, I just think that he fits what they do. They understand what they look for in that position. Pete Carroll is kind of like the NFL's version of Nick Saban. Like DBs are his baby, right? Like that's like his position. Right. He, it just his history since he's been in Seattle, even in all the time in SC, they always had badass DBs.
Which
right?
Someone could counter and say, well, if he's so good with DBs, why do you need to trade 2 ones for one?
Because I just don't you just go, we're in the prime of our quarterback's career. We are these last couple years, now that we've transitioned from the LOB team to Russell's team, we're just a couple impact players short, right? We're good enough on offense because Russell can do enough. And now we got DK. We got a bunch of running backs. We still got Tyler Lockett. I just think defensively, how do you get that player? And they'd go, here's what we do know. One, John Schneider despises pick like 26. Like he would rather go for a swim around the Pacific, than take a player at 26 or 28 or wherever they always fucking pick, because he always trades back. And whenever he's been in a pinch and has to take a player, the guy ends up not being good. I think he despises that pick. And 2, he goes, how am I ever going to get, like we got Clowney last year. We kind of got lucky getting Clowney, right? Remember they traded like a 3rd-round pick and a couple of players. Like that's not typical. And they go, we get this guy who wants to come here, who our coach knows he's a plug-and-play player. We don't. What are our late first-round picks mean to us? We make the play. It's not like, well, you make the playoffs like every other year, like the Rams. They've really made the playoffs twice, it feels like, in 20 years. Seattle goes, we literally make the playoffs every fucking year. So we're in the dance, right? We just want a shot.
Yeah, I mean, look, because I think because everybody agreed that they would do the Jets side of this deal, right? You would do the Jets side of the deal. I would do the Jets side of the deal. Probably every team would do the Jets side of the deal.
Because most shitty teams are not
if you're the Jet, like if you're in the Jets position, right? You need picks because you traded for Darnold. You haven't been able to replenish your picks. I saw somebody wrote they really could have justified not using the Quinnen Williams pick and trading that pick just to get picks.
You're saying trade back from Quinnen Williams?
Yeah. But the point is, in the Jets position, this is a no-brainer for Joe Douglas. You didn't draft this player. You don't want him here. He doesn't want to be here, right?
Yeah, I think that's Guy,
So,
he requested like 4 trades in
Yeah.
a 24-month span.
you haven't extended him. Like you could have extended him. You haven't for whatever reason. Maybe it's the right thing to do. Maybe you don't want to pay him. Whatever, right? That could be part of it too. Maybe they didn't want to pay him.
Well, do you want to
But-
pay a player when you're not winning? That plays a position like
At
that.
some point, you have to have good players on your team, though.
Yeah.
He's not like he's old. He's a year away from his. But the point is this.
You want to pay a player when you're not good who always doesn't act like he doesn't want to be there.
Well,
It's a
yeah.
complicated situation.
So, but here's my point is, okay, let's put that aside for a second because we all would have done the Jets deal. So now let's talk about, are the Seahawks taking a risk or are they insane, right? That's really the conversation. Are the Seahawks totally nuts or are they just taking a calculated risk? Here's a few other factors that could go into this. I think you said one, right? This is a guy that fits for them perfectly. They've never really cared much about what everybody else thinks value is, right? They just kind of do their thing in their own little bubble. One thing, and I texted you this on Saturday, I didn't think of this right away, but as time went on, not only do they hate first rounders, if you hate first rounders, well, the odds are that 2021 is going to be an all-time year to hate first rounders. Because it's one thing to know Trevor Lawrence or Penei Sewell is going to be the top of the draft. The end of the first round, those picks are made in the year leading up to that draft, right? Like Brandon Ayuk, what round would he have been drafted in this year if there wasn't a 2019 college football season?
I mean, like Patrick Queen, the dude the Ravens took at the end of the first round, didn't start till game 3 for LSU.
So Schneider's thinking this is going to be, and this is not an overstatement, the biggest crapshoot first round there's ever been. If we get a college football season that A doesn't happen, or B has 6 games, or C doesn't happen till January, and a bunch of guys, who knows? It's just, again, that's not it's just, I do wonder if he's thinking, if I hate
and
first
he already
rounders
hates
most
he already
years,
hates that pick to begin with.
then I'm really going to hate it this year. Because it's going to be, and forget about the word hate. Let's just say it's a 50-50 proposition most years when you draft at 28.
Hate's wrong. He just looks at it like it's a bad spot.
Well, this year it might be a 30-70. 30 the player is a Pro Bowl, or 70 is not, or 20-80. I don't know.
Because in fairness, the smartest thing, John Schneider was the guy, and I think a lot of GMs talk like this now, but he's been speaking this for a while. We don't, every single year, we have 16 to 20 first-round players graded on normal college football seasons. Yet we always pick somewhere between 25 and 30. So I don't want to pay a second-round pick, first-rounder money. And that's just where I always feel I'm doing. And when I get in a pinch and have to pick that player, he turns out to never be that good. And when you look at their last couple first rounders, the dude they picked last year, I think a TCU pass rusher, healthy scratch all season long. 2 years ago, now I was wrong on this player because I liked him whenever I watched him at San Diego State. They took Rashad Penny.
You have
it's
it's a
soft
Mountain
spot
West
for
guy.
Mountain West
Yeah.
guys. But if you could do a do-over, I think John Schneider would be like, yeah, probably would have taken another player, right?
They're
And
just traded back for cents on the dollar.
Or just pick Nick Chubb instead of Rashad Penny.
Yeah.
I just think that you go, I'm getting a plug-and-play player who is a star, and when we do have to pay him, is going to be worth that money. Because you look at the last 2 players they've traded for, Clowney and Jamal Adams. Like they do, and when they traded for Percy Harvin and Jimmy Graham, when they trade a lot, like they do put a premium, and this gets back, I think, to Pete and SC on like elite talents, right? They don't like they have no problem with their projections and the Richard Shermans and then turning them into a star. But if they're going to pay for a lot, like they've done with Russell over the years, like they do with Bobby Wagner, they just want to go, well, I can look myself in the mirror and go, I'm taking a swing on a blue chipper. Now, Percy Harvin, you get hurt. Jimmy Graham, my defense calls him a pussy before he ever shows up. At least I know with Jamal Adams, this guy is ready to roll, right? And whether it works or not, LSU, top 6 pick, baller. So I think they justify it like that. They value that shit. They really do.
Do you think, I've seen a few people say, like, if this doesn't turn them into a Super Bowl contender, you can't justify it.
Well, weren't they a Super Bowl contender last year?
Well, you could argue they were 11-5, but you know what their point differential was last year? 7.
What's weird is don't you tip your hat to them, because like when I watch them against the Niners, the Patriots, the Saints, whatever, it's always like, damn, Seattle's really good. Their problem is you can be watching on a random game, be like the Jaguars or the Panthers on a morning game. You're like, Seattle's down 21 points right now, right? They're not super focused every week.
You know what the Niners' point differential was? 169. Now, in their 2 games, they were really close.
Yeah, but is there a team in the league that, like, you never view them when they're playing a big-time team like they're not going to win the game or have a shot to win the game?
I know.
They just don't play that well against shitty teams.
But I guess my response to that specific thing about Super Bowl contender is, okay, does he make them a Super Bowl contender? No. Not just him, but he is like, you just need star players on defense to be a Super Bowl contender, and they've got a couple.
Are they a top 5 team in the NFC?
Well, what are the Bucks?
I can't put the Bucks ahead of them.
Okay, then yes.
So they're a top 5 team in the NFC. You got Russell Wilson. You just add a sweet Pro Bowler, and you don't have to give up anything really because you're just going, well, these picks would be there next year. Yes, if you're in the dance and you got a shot and you add a sweet player, they're a Super Bowl contender in my mind. Now, does he make them dramatically better than the Niners or who knows? It's no, in the sense of one, he doesn't hurt, right? I mean, it's not like he improves them.
Well, here's an example of what I'm talking about. It's like the Chiefs added Tyrann Mathieu last year. Did he make them a Super Bowl contender? Well, you could argue, yes, he did. Their defense was whatever it was, 28th or 29th the year before. He significantly improved their defense. But it's like, okay, cool, yeah. But if I take Patrick Mahomes away from that team, he didn't make them a Super Bowl contender. So, yeah, to your point with Russell Wilson, where they already are, what their history is, he gives them a better chance to contend for a Super Bowl. They were an 11-5 team last year.
I think that's a good comp, the Mahomes, or excuse me, the Honey Badger. Now, the difference is, as Andy will tell you, that fucker's like the heart and soul of their team. This guy, like, he's a heart and soul player. Like, when you watch him, I think he's putting his heart and soul.
I thought his rep was he was a leader the first couple of years in New York.
Well, yeah, I don't know. I feel like it feels a little convoluted right now because all I see is craziness. I see him in a truck screaming at Cowboy fans outside Walmart, him giving Manesh all this. So maybe I think we're all viewing him a little. Wouldn't you say if you just asked a casual NFL fan, you'd be like Jamal Adams, would be like, oh, that guy's nuts.
But if you would asked him after 2 years in the league, they would have been like, oh, leader, high-level guy, which he would you say probably is.
Who do you think, if you just took a deep breath and go, who would you feel better about in your locker room just on a daily basis, Jalen Ramsey or Jamal Adams?
Jamal Adams.
Yeah, so Jalen's a little crazier. Now, my pushback would be Jalen's way better, in the sense of he is by far the best corner. So whoever you're playing, Michael Thomas, Julio Jones, Mike Evans, he follows that guy, right? Is this guy now? Bucky Brooks tweeted this, and I do think this is fascinating with the mobile quarterbacks, and there's a sweet mobile quarterback now in this division. And you'd say Jimmy moves around, and against a run-heavy division, which the Rams and Niners definitely, like, they want to run the ball. And the Rams have a couple good tight ends in Everett and Higbee. The Niners' best player in their team is a tight end. And I think Kyler Murray, you'd go, if Jamal's going to spy him, he does make sense in this division because Cam Chancellor, you go, what was the big reason the Niners, the slight difference of Niners-Seattle back when it was basically a coin flip. I felt like Cam and Earl were kind of the difference in a lot of games, right? Yeah. Cam ended Vernon Davis's career and Richard. Like, their defensive backfield is kind of what separated them. And this guy is he's an elite run player. He's a great blitzer. And I think he's the type guy, when you look at Minkah Fitzpatrick, once they got him in Pittsburgh, he made them a 500 team last year. Wasn't he? He was basically, runner-up for Defensive Player of the Year. And you go, this guy with Pete and that mindset and the way they want to play, if I told you Jamal Adams is a Defensive Player of the Year candidate this year with Seattle, isn't that believable? I mean, just have 2 or 3 picks, but just have some altering plays in big games.